had my first winner here 18 years ago, that's for sure.
But Star Shiraz and Zach Butcher, they blow on by, and the Lismar at Neville start fillies and mares all over. Star Shiraz by 4.
I always wanted to be great, and I'm thankful that I made it to where I am today.
It's Cheer the Lady in front for Zach Butcher, and Cheer the Lady won the Oaks. Sky Major, the ultimate commander, orchestrates 3 Jules victories, 3 from Zach.
It's Duchess makes it, and Zachary Butcher, the spotlight's yours.
Cambridge is special to so many people. We take pride in our heritage, culture and town.
And the world record may fall as well. It will! What a moment!
Todd for 2 and 2 for Todd.
Oh, that's great.
Mark Todd and Lewis.
I watched the first slot race in New Zealand on the sidelines, just like all of you. I remember watching the race last year and I was pretty angry I wasn't out there. To be out there this year, fingers crossed everything goes well for us. But when I got my chance...
It's Copy That though! Copy That! He adds the race by grins to his already magnificent CV, and Copy That over Old Town Road.
It took 2 champions to beat me. Then came 2024.
Just total focus. He is ready to drive the race of his life.
Something was in the air that night.
They come for home. Here's the magical Merlin after Don't Stop Dreaming.
And I knew this was going to be my moment.
Merlin, Don't Stop Dreaming really digs in, but the magic of Merlin, he's got the race by grins to 35.1. You've seen a New Zealand record. Merlin, the dual derby winner, Zachary Butcher.
We're not done.
Welcome to this 90-minute special of the box seat as we get set for the Night of Champions this Friday night here at Cambridge Raceway, featuring the TAB Trot and the race by Betcha. Over the next 90 minutes, we'll have the all-important barrier draw, which is coming up first. We'll have that for you shortly, of both the TAB Trot and the race by Betcha. And then myself and the panel will take you through runner by runner for both fields. Tonight with me in the studio, I have Brittany Graham and Greg O'Connor. Brittany, a massive week. Great to have you involved.
Such a pleasure to be here, Matthew, as we will be on Friday night for these epic feature races. I love this Trans-Tasman rivalry that has once again reignited, and we're going to see it on full display on Friday night in both of the feature races, Greg O'Connor. It just adds something different. It's special. Barrier draws are always important. It just feels as though tonight, though, might be a little more than normal.
Yeah, absolutely. Britt, hi to you, hi to Matthew and everyone at home. It's going to be a really interesting next 20 or 25 minutes, because then we get the opportunity to analyse the barrier draws, particularly here at Cambridge, over the 2,200 metres. Often it's up and in, although, as we saw last year, if they run around that 235 again, Matthew, it might bring everyone into it anyway.
Yeah, that was a New Zealand record set by Merlin the year before. It was Copy That. And the first running of the race was, of course, won by one of our very favourites in Self Assured. Only one running of the TAB Trot, and it was taken out by Just Believe, and it was the first verse of his final chapter in his last season of racing. Barrier draws very shortly. The man to take us through those is Michael Guerin. He's downstairs in the marquee. Evening to you, Michael.
Evening to you, Matt. Big hi to you, the team, and of course to everybody watching at home. It's a real privilege because I'm in the best place. I'm in the place with the people who invented this race, the people who are slot holders who invested in this race, and the people who maybe years ago invested in a horse and now they have climbed the mountaintop. How high can they go? We find out here on Friday night. Our thanks to the TAB and to Betcha for their sponsorship of these races and all these slot holders. We know the horses. What we don't know is the barriers and the saddle cloths they will wear. 2 draws for you tonight. First, the TAB Trot. 9 horses to be drawn. The emergency will be drawn in the field. The ladies won't be. They're on a separate draw because the 2 mares have to draw barriers 1 and 2. After a break, we'll come back. The $1 million race by Betcha. 11 horses to be drawn, again one emergency. This time one mare, she must draw barrier 1, Duchess Megxit will be starting from the inside. Crucially, Matt, we're going to find out whether the emergencies draw the front line, and therefore we have a 7 configuration on the front, or if the emergency draws the second line, a front line of 8. The markets are about to change enormously. Maybe what happens next will change in some part people's lives here on Friday night. We'll talk to some of the key participants after the draws coming up very shortly. But Matt, first up, it'll be that $600,000 TAB Trot.
And that is our richest trotting race, and then we'll have our equal richest pacing race, the race by Betcha, to come up after that. tab.co.nz and on Betcha, all of the markets will come out post the barrier draw, and our TAB rep on track with us tonight is Matt Markham. I'm sure you're waiting in anticipation just like us.
Yeah, very good evening to you, Matt, and of course to both Greg and Brittany. An absolute pleasure to be a part of what is such a massive night as we lead into the Night of Champions. All those ifs and buts that we've talked about in the futures markets over the past month to 2 months, they get answered tonight with finally a barrier draw. We've seen significant action in the last 48 hours in both markets, the race by Betcha and the TAB Trot. I can tell you that yesterday afternoon we took a number of significant bets on Leap to Fame, which was enough to shorten him from his $2.20 quote into $1.90 when we closed the markets today. And likewise, a lot of action around the locomotive in the TAB Trot. He was $3.20. He now shares equal favouritism with Oscar Bonavina as we lead into these all-important barrier draws. Looking forward to bringing you those updated markets as soon as we get them up and running, and of course running you through a few of the features that are going to be available for the punters both at home and on course here on Friday night as part of the Night of Champions. Looking forward to it, Matt. Can't wait to see what's unveiled in the next half an hour or so.
And great to have you here as well, Matt, giving us all of the information firsthand from the TAB, and great to see a couple of the men in behind the locomotive and Oscar Bonavina. I speak of Brad Hewitt and Mark Purdon, both on track with us tonight, and I'm sure that they can't wait to get these barrier draws underway. Let's get straight into it with our introduction of both fields, and we'll start away with the TAB Trot.
What a field of square gators we have assembled as well, Matthew Cross. Here they are with their slot holders. So as we're seeing, the Australian interest is immense, and as we see them in alphabetical order, RC Phoenix again representing the Aldebaran Park slot as he did last year when running 4th. Bet and Win for his syndicate of slot holders and big ownership group as well. I'm Ready Jet, one of 2 mares, as already alluded to by Michael Gearin. Kai Valley Hotspur is the emergency if there is to be a scratching, but he will be drawn into the main body of the field. Muscle Mountain with Cullen Breeding once more, not as promised, who we saw here last Friday night taking on Oscar Bonavina. Queen Elida is back, and the locomotive, what a superstar he is. He's on his way to Sweden. This will be a nice preparatory trip for that, Matt, but it's a pretty rich preparatory trip as well.
It certainly is, and as I mentioned, Brad Hewitt, he'll be waiting in anticipation for that barrier draw to come out. Let's introduce the field for our equal richest pacing race. It's the 5th running of the race by Betcha.
$1 million goes on the line, Matthew. A horse that possibly wasn't even going to be here this week, Chase a Dream, a brilliant winner last week. The All-Stars Racing Chris Ryder ownership group with their slot. Don Hugo, the winner of the Miracle Mile, has N40 Racing, and of course the boys get paid. Don't Stop Dreaming, brilliant winner at Alexandra Park. Dennis and Mark Dunford, the ownership group there with Don't Stop Dreaming. Duchess Megxit, the brilliant race filly and mare with their slot. Leap to Fame for Kevin and Kay Seymour and their Solid Earth Limited. Merlin, the defending champion, again for the ownership group of Dean Shannon, Montana Park. Moanga, who is our emergency. Ahoka Connor for Team Stonewall Stud. Pin Seeker, who was very brave last week, the Michael Brennan Racing and Roseland Racing Syndicate there. Rakiro Racing and the Group 1 winner of the Christian Cullen, Rakiro Rocket, and the Invercargill and Auckland Cup winner, Republican Party, for their syndicate as well. It is as deep a race, Matthew, as we have seen in this country, in my opinion, since the turn of the century.
Fourth running was what I was meant to say. I must have been having the extra race in my dreams, and great to see Republican Party in the field this year after being the emergency last year. You've all been waiting for it. Let's get downstairs and take in the exclusive barrier draw for the TAB Trot.
Thank you, Matt. 2,200 metres, of course, the mobile 9 to be drawn. It is time for the business of the barriers. We will go 9, 2, 1. Your first horse revealed for the $600,000 TAB Trot in barrier 9 is Bet and Win. So Bet and Win will be starting from 1 on the second line. He is not obviously an emergency, hence we will have a 7 and 1 configuration. David and Stacey White, Bob Butt to do the driving. It will follow out one of the mares. Number 8, the outside of the front line. This will actually end up being barrier 7 because there will be an emergency on the front line, is the emergency. Kai Valley Hotspur has drawn the outside of the front line. We have a 7 and 1 configuration, but there will be no more movement unless there is a forced scratching. So the emergency has drawn the outside of the front line. The rest of the barriers you're about to see will be as they are drawn with no change. Barrier 7 for the TAB Trot here at Cambridge on Friday night. Muscle Mountain. He started from the outside of the gate here last week, a former New Zealand Trotter of the Year. We know how great he has been. He now faces perhaps his biggest challenge for Greg and Ben Hope, the new partnership which started just today, father and son, taking over from husband and wife. Barrier 7 for the Mountain. Barrier 6 for the TAB Trot. And the 6 saddlecloth will be worn by the Locomotive, the Inter-Dominion champion for Brad Hewitt, trainer and driver. He is a speedster. Will he have the gate speed to cross those inside him? Let's see what order they end up in. But your Inter-Dominion champion and dual favourite gets barrier 6. Barrier 5 for our 2,200 metre classic on Friday night goes to the Queenslander, not as promised. Graham Dwyer, Nathan Dawson to do the driving, of course, was here last week. He'll be better suited by the longer distance, and not as promised will start from barrier 5. Barrier 4 for the TAB Trot goes to RC Phoenix for Chris Finocio. Our snoozer's here. We'll talk to him shortly. I know he's going to be happy with that. The horse worked here this morning, so he has been to Cambridge. That is undoubtedly a plus for a horse who was $7 in the pre-draw market. RC Phoenix will start from barrier 4. Barrier 3 and the last of the boys. Oscar Bonavina, favourite pre-draw alongside the Locomotive. Will Mark Purdom push the button? Will he ever crack? We will ask him also later on what he makes of his barrier. That is the boys out of the way. 7-1 configuration. Bet and Win, the only horse on the second line. The 2 mares have a 50-50 of drawing barrier 1. Let's see who gets the 2. Barrier 2 goes to Queen Elida. She was placed in this race last year. She's back home for Kiwi expat Brett Lilly. Chris Alford will be at Cambridge again to drive her. She gets barrier 2. And barrier 1, this should be a fait accompli. We have Andy and Kate Gath coming back to New Zealand, and they will bring with them I'm Ready Jet for her as the trotteuse, and she, with her gate speed, will now go from barrier 1. So the crucial components of the draw. Bet and Win, the second line. The emergency goes to the outside of the front line. Muscle Mountain and the Locomotive wide. RC Phoenix and Oscar Bonavina in very good positions. And of the 2 mares, I'm Ready Jet gets the coveted number 1 draw. Interesting, Matt, to see how that is going to affect our markets coming up very shortly with Matt Markham.
And we'll get to him in a moment. Brittany, first of all, winners and losers, your first impression?
Well, as it was playing out, and I know I've had this conversation with a few people, there were probably two horses that I thought if they drew inside the locomotive could prove difficult for him. They were Bet and Win and also Muscle Mountain. As soon as they both came out early, Greg, straight away you were knowing that the locomotive's barrier draw was a positive one. I'm sure maybe a position or two closer would have been preferred for Brad Hewitt, but Oscar Bonavena drawing there in 3. It looks really positive on paper, but I'm still a little wary after his few little mistakes, and when he drew one in the Hammerhead Trot at Menangle not all that long ago, he made a mistake. So I would say it's still a pressure draw for him. There's going to be a lot of action transpiring all around him.
Yeah, there is. The one thing I'd say to that, Britt, is Mark Purdon is the best man to be sitting in the bike with this horse. I can't remember him galloping with him from in behind the gate, and I think Mark's got some decisions to make. We'll hear from him very shortly, Matthew, about what that might mean for Oscar, but I think the locomotive is absolutely the big winner. The loser is Bet and Win, because now the race is dictated to him.
How does I'm Ready Jet get out with reference to Bet and Win's chances?
She's not a brilliant beginner, and she's a mare that can't be made to leave the gate. She sort of has to do it under her own steam, and she can be a little bit up and down in her gate speed as well. Sometimes she leaves pretty strongly. On other occasions, she can be a little bit hit and miss. My initial thoughts are that I believe Queen Elida will get across her if they have a really good look early, and it could nearly have that staggered effect where a few horses are sort of protected out wide while they're trying to come across. So I have to dissect it in a little bit more depth, but just looking initially, maybe it's not as simple as the locomotive doing a left-hand turn at the start.
And a key component around Bet and Win is being the only horse on the second row as well. So if you're thinking Queen Elida punches out, there's going to be a few options there. Matt, I'm sure that everybody down in the marquee is just churning all of the scenarios over in their head. What are the bookies thinking?
Yeah, well, now we've got a clear definitive favourite for our TAB Trot. Of course, pre-barrier draw, we had equal favourites. I can tell you Oscar Bonavena, $2.80, now your favourite for the TAB Trot on Friday night. What we've seen is a little bit of a drift out for the locomotive, who's now out to $3.30. Bet and Win, who of course was one of the big losers out of the barrier draw, now $4.80. RC Phoenix has been a good mover in the market, in from 7s to $5.50. We've seen a drift for Muscle Mountain out to 15s, and you're getting longer odds for a lot of the other runners in the race, with Queen Elida at the $34 mark. So we're making a bit of a statement here on barrier draw night, Matt Cross, that with a good barrier draw to work from, and after his emphatic victory here in the Flying Mile last week, that Oscar Bonavena does.
Same barrier draw, which Just Believe was able to prove a winner from last year. That's barrier number 3. More on the TAB Trot shortly. We will go runner by runner, post the barrier draw for the race by Betcha. Let's head back downstairs to Michael Guerin.
Thank you, Matt. And the big one is the $1 million race by Betcha, formerly known as the race by Grins. How important is the barrier draw? It's been run 3 times. One horse came from last to win, copy that led. Another horse came from the 1-1. It is a race that can be won from anywhere. Good luck to the connections involved. We have 11 horses to be drawn. Again, where the emergency draws will be crucial. We go 11-1. The mare, Duchess Makes It, is guaranteed barrier 1. The rest, anything but guaranteed. Let's find out the business of barriers part 2 for the race by Betcha. $1 million, barrier 11. Ohoka Connor for Team Telfer. Tim Williams will do the driving, gets the second line. Exactly what barrier 11 means could be determined by who ends up in 2, 3 and 4, and of course where the emergency is. Let's get to barrier 10. This will be potentially 2 on the second line. Barrier 10 for the race by Betcha goes to Rakiro Rocket, Tom Banford, Gavin Smith. Good gate speed horse that removes some gate speed from the front line. And the horse who of course won the initial running of the Christian Coloured will start from the second line. 1 on the second line for the race by Betcha will be number 9. Let's get number 9, which could potentially be starting behind Duchess Makes It. Chase a Dream came here and won the lead-up race, the Flying Mile, just a few days ago. Now, he is not an emergency. That means the emergency will be drawn on the front line. Moanga is going to be on the front line. Our configuration has now become 7 and 3, and Chase a Dream will follow out Duchess Mexit. That's what we know. What we don't know is what that front line looks like. Let's find out more. Barrier 8 is the outside of the front line for the paces in the race by Betcha, and a horse who can't seem to buy a good barrier draw in the biggest races still can't buy one. Larry, the champ, Leap to Fame, gets the outside of the gate for Grant Dixon, trained by Grant and Trista Dixon. The champ and the favourite at odds on until just a few seconds ago probably won't be when the market comes back with Matt Markham in 10 minutes' time. Leap to Fame, Barrier 8. Barrier 7, and the pacing front line for the race by Betcha, $1 million goes up for grabs. It goes to the defending champion, trained by Barry and Scotty. Zach will be back in the bike. If he's going to defend his title, he's going to need to do so from Barrier 6. He goes from 7. He will move in because the emergency has not yet come. This will be a big defence if he can pull it off. Let's find out more. Number 6 saddlecloth will be worn by Pinseeker, one of the late romantic great fairy tale stories of the race for Johnny Cox. Good luck to Michael Brennan Racing, to Roseland Racing. He has been enormous in his last couple of runs. He is a gate speed factor horse. He gets Barrier 6, which is going to become Barrier 5 because that emergency is still waiting. Let's see who will wear saddlecloth 5 in the race by Betcha. And it is Don't Stop Dreaming, second of the race last year, led. We started to wonder whether he could bring that form back. Now for new trainers, Hayden and Amanda Cullen. He was brilliant at Alexandra Park last start. He gets saddlecloth 5, Craig Ferguson to do the driving. This is getting really interesting because we don't have our emergency out yet. Let's see who wears saddlecloth 4. It is the emergency, Moanga for Regan Todd. Regan needed to be assured that he could get this horse into the race. He said, I'm not sure if I want to go, but they said, hey, you get your chance here if he gets into this field. He will have Barrier 4, but at this stage it means all the horses in the second half of the front line will move in 1 if Moanga does not start. Barrier 4 for the emergency. Barrier 3 for the race by Betcha goes to Republican Party, the Auckland Cup winner, the little superstar. He had no luck from Barrier 8 last time for Team Dalgety. Mum, Dad, Carter, they get Barrier 3. They will start from Barrier 3. The emergency is outside them, and the Auckland Cup winner will be a shortener in the markets when we talk to Matt Markham again in about 10 minutes' time. The last of the boys, and you know who it's going to be. Barrier 2 will go to the Inter-Dominion Miracle Mile and Eureka champion for Luke McCarthy. Don is in town, and Don has got the best possible barrier draw he could get. I don't want to usurp what's going to happen next, but there is going to be a dramatic market move here. Barrier 1, the next to come up, ladies last in this case, should be Duchess Mexit. And you now have your field. Congratulations to Barry and Scotty getting 2 into the race. Your field with Tony Hurley, the most successful driver in New Zealand history to drive the Duchess. But gentlemen, as we head back to you, that is a huge market shifting barrier draw, a 7-3 configuration. Lowry gets the outside, and the one horse Grant Dixon didn't want drawn inside Leap to Fame, Don Hugo, has got the best possible barrier draw. We will talk to Luke McCarthy very shortly about that. I think he'll have a smile on his face.
Yeah, plenty to unpack there, Michael. Thanks for your input with the barrier draws. Michael's hit the nail on the head there. Don Hugo in 2 and Leap to Fame drawn the outside. It's going to be one heck of a race.
He's just having no luck whatsoever, Leap to Fame, in these big races. Not only is he drawing poorly, but so often his major threats are drawing really positively. Greg, they'll be starting to scratch their head. I guess if you look at that and think, well, what happened in, you know, a Miracle Mile, it's just still different, isn't it? We're over 2,200 metres on Friday night. So it's, of course, more advantageous for Leap to Fame than the mile because he has more time to get there. But just looking at that front row, I'm not sure there's many off the front row that will be wanting to take back. It could take him a while to get there. Yeah,
it could do. I'm expecting... Definitely Don't Stop Dreaming. He's probably one horse we know has been used off the gate before and can explode, and he's in the middle of the field, so he's in no man's land really. If he goes back, he won't get any of it. He has to try and go forward. Will he have enough speed to get across Don Hugo? Well, Craig Ferguson, who's only had one opportunity on this horse before, so he doesn't know him that well. He's going to have to sum that up nice and early, Matthew, so that's intriguing for me. Obviously, the big winner is Don Hugo. He's had an incredible last 6 months, and that's likely to continue on Friday night. Grant Dixon's going to have to sit outside him. I can see that happening again, although this time, Brittany, he won't be sitting half a length or a length back. I can see him up there and eyeballing him, and you're right, over the 2,200, it plays into his hands. And we've seen Self Assured win from the outside, albeit in a field of less depth.
We'll be going runner by runner for the race by Betcha very shortly, but let's get back downstairs to Matt Markham, the bookies' reaction to the barrier draw.
Yeah, it might surprise a few, Matt, but we're going to stick with Leap to Fame as our barrier draw favourite, following on from that shock wide barrier draw. He's $2.30 now, so out from that $1.90 quote that he was when we closed the markets earlier on this afternoon. Don Hugo, obviously a shortener. He comes in from his $3.60 quote to $2.50. Merlin on a little bit of a drift, as Michael suggested, a bit of a inward move for Republican Party with a really handy barrier draw of 3 from 14s into 11s. Probably some of the big losers out of the barrier draw in terms of the market. Riquero Rockets on the drift from 34s out to 61s. Merlin just with that wee drift out $1. We've gone from 9s out to 10s with his wide barrier draw. But unsurprisingly, given they've both drawn the front row, we are confident enough to say that the extra 600 metres compared to the Miracle Mile is going to be enough to get Larry home over Don Hugo. He is now your race by Betcha favourite, $2.30. Matt Cross, as we come back to you, if you're looking for those markets, you will find them on the Futures tab on tab.co.nz until we integrate them into the race fields for Friday night. So under the Futures tab on tab.co.nz for all those up-to-date markets on our 2 features.
Thank you, Matt, for your input tonight on behalf of the bookmakers there. So those are your 2 barrier draws for the TAB Trot and the race by Betcha for Night of Champions on Friday night. Do stay with us. After this, we go runner by runner.
Kensington Kate is the one who's left this glamour filly / mare now in Duchess Megxit. Did you ever think that it was possible that she'd leave such a superstar?
Oh, no, never. And thankfully the Kennies, they were good salespeople, and they told me that Sweet Lou was the cross to go with. She's a beautiful looking horse too, and yeah, been very lucky, I think.
So that 2-year-old race in December, that must have been a huge day for you and the family and the Commodore supporters.
Yeah, too right. And we do, when there's those big race meetings, we do have a huge number of supporters here. So there was a good crowd back here that night. It was a big bar tab anyway, but yeah, a lot of fun, and that's what it's about, isn't it? And you got to, I guess, you know, you realise how hard it is to win those things, so make the most of it when it happens.
Betcha's giving you tools to protect your bets at Night of Champions this Friday. Before you bet, open your toolbox and activate Bet Back. Back a winner, and if your horse places second or third, get up to $50 back as bonus cash. Download the Betcha app and bet it out. R18, bet responsibly.
Woodland Stud present their All-Star 5 world-class shuttle sires, all on offer to breeders this season. Better's Delight, Sweet Lou, Down by the Seaside, Lather Up, What the Hill. We are a one-stop shop for breeders looking to enhance their bloodlines, get success at the sales, and breed their own stars. Don't miss your opportunity to share the dream with Woodland Stud.
To make an anonymous report about integrity issues in the racing industry, please contact the Independent Integrity Line on 0508 RIB 123.
So that's what I look like on there. Okay. They wouldn't let me go on the track even. I could go there and harness the horse up, watch Dad run it round the track, bring it back, unharness it, wash it off, cool it off, but no, wasn't allowed to drive. Boy, have we shown them.
Yes, the Dorothy Cuts feature story will be here through the week on Trackside. Brittany, that must have been a great day out catching up with Dorothy.
It was wonderful. 85 years of age and as sharp as. She'll be here on Friday night to watch the second running of the race in celebration of her achievements in the sport of harness racing. I'm looking forward to having a drive as well. So she's something pretty special, and I'm looking forward to that full feature piece because, as I mentioned, she still watches racing. She still watches a box seat. In fact, she's probably watching tonight.
Have you seen the weather forecast for Friday? Are you at all worried about stepping outside and then having to come back indoors?
I never believe the weatherman anyway, but I must say I am slightly concerned, and I can take poor weather with me when I am on track. So at least you have someone to blame if it is raining on Friday night.
Just on that, Matthew, just an update. Spoke to John Denton about what they're doing to prepare the track. Michael Douglas and the team are here at Cambridge. So they'll put some more crusher dust on tomorrow. Then they will roll and seal the track with the anticipation of that rain. So the track will be absolutely fine. They're just getting prepared in the inevitable situation where it's likely to rain, which it looks that way.
Cross everything. Cross absolutely everything. Let's recap the barrier draw for the race by Betcha for $1 million, our equal richest harness race here in New Zealand alongside of the IRT New Zealand Trotting Cup. 8:52, the key information for you. It will be as a part of Friday Night Lights here for the Night of Champions. The big news, if you have just joined us, is Leap to Fame has drawn the outside of the gate. But in saying that, Self Assured was able to put up a winning performance from there in the inaugural running of the race. Don Hugo has swept everything before him, and Australia has barrier number 2, and Merlin has been a drifter out to $10. He'll take his place from what will be barrier number 6 with the likelihood of Mohunga coming out. Let's start away with the champion Australian, Leap to Fame. His mother, Let Us Reason, has left 2 freaks in a row, the other one being Swayze. Grant Dixon, one of the best trainers and drivers in Australia, has his work cut out, Brittany, from the outside of the gate.
He sure does, Matt. But he is such an impressive horse. He so often finds a way. Look at that CV. Greg, you've been lucky enough to see him in the flesh. And I'm so glad that he's finally arriving here in New Zealand to strut his stuff. Yes, they would have preferred a closer barrier draw, but all the same, he's not explosive, and he wouldn't have been able to take advantage of a 2-gate as Don Hugo now is able to on Friday night. $3.5 million in the bank, Greg, and when he gets up over that bit of distance, it is the sustained speed. He can run 27 quarters all day long. He's probably going to have to, and I guess he is then somewhat susceptible to horses that are going to be getting good runs, and this is a field of great horses, but he is something incredibly special, and I'm sure you'll speak to him.
Yeah, the Better's Delight factor comes out often at the end of his races. He will hit the line as strong as he does at any stage of the race. So I'm thinking he'll be parked out. I think that's where he'll be in the run. I am, like you, Brittany, I'm so pleased he's here because we've tempted fate a few times trying to get him to New Zealand, but I have seen him a few times, and I think the New Zealand public don't fully appreciate just how good this horse is. I think we'll get to see that on Friday night because he's going to have to be, Matthew, from there.
So Don Hugo, if we're thinking he finds the front, Brittany, Leap to Fame's having to do a lot of work probably for the first lap. Is it an absolute 100% no deal that the top would not be there?
I can't foresee the top being there for him. It's interesting because we've spoken about the map, and he is actually a brilliant horse off cover. We saw it in the Sunshine Sprint, but the fact of the matter is you've come all this way for $1 million. Do you want to tuck in and tempt fate in that respect? I can't foresee that happening. His last start performance, he smashed the Albion Park track record of previously 149 and 148 and 6. And if you haven't watched that replay, you should go back and watch it, because not only did he smash the track record, he was 3 wide to the breeze, he was parked out, and he looked super strong. I know he was beaten in the Miracle Mile, and people will say, well, he was beaten because he had to sit parked. I'm still not sure he was 110% on that night, because I have such lofty expectations of him. I'm really hoping we get to see that version on Friday.
Can he still win it?
Absolutely he can. There's, I don't think, a race in the world that he can't win, Greg. We've seen him overcome impossible situations in the past.
He's still top pick for me. Really going to be interested to hear what Luke McCarthy has to say about that.
And Don Hugo will be the horse that Luke McCarthy will take the reins in behind. We think of the wonderful horses over the years that Luke has been able to steer home. Mr. Feelgood, along with For a Reason, and of course King of Swing, and Michael Guerin is standing by with Luke.
I'll make this simple for you, Luke. That couldn't have gone much better.
Yeah, really happy with the draw, Mick. You know, any big race, the draw is very crucial, and lucky enough we come up with a good draw.
Okay, let's cut to the nuts and bolts. You wanted to draw inside Leap to Fame. You didn't care where it was as long as it was inside Leap to Fame, but Barrier 2's the best version of being inside Leap to Fame.
Yeah, that's correct. Tactically wise, I really wanted to draw, better than Leap to Fame, and they probably look the most two dominant horses in the race that you can sort of, power drive them and probably leader outside the leader. So, Barrier 2 is absolutely perfect.
Let me be the first to ask, first of many, if you lead, will you be staying in front at all costs?
Definitely.
Okay. That was good. How was this version of Don Hugo, take me through the steps, compared with the Eureka version, the Inter-Dominion version, and the Miracle Mile version? Which version is closest to what we're going to see this Friday night?
They're all a little bit different. Like Eureka was, a bit of a closed shop. He's only racing against a 3 or 4-year-old company, and he really come on the scene and got the job done. The Inter-Dominion took him to that next level. He was awesome through the heats, come out and broke the world record in the final, sitting parked. He's really strengthened up this horse, and then come Miracle Mile time, like he's run in the sprint the week before was probably, his career best, sitting parked in 48.8. And, when it come to the final, I'd sort of watched all Leap to Fame's replays again, and I figured he was around that mid-48s, and if I could lead and go quicker than that on the fence, I was going to be hard to beat, and that's how it panned out. And he was awesome there a fortnight after the mile. Had a really easy 2 weeks, still come out, went 49, 25.8. Really happy with that run. Took him to an angle Friday night and give him another solid run. He just seems to thrive on that run, week to week. Probably worked better than what he did leading into the Miracle Mile sprint. So heart rate was great. Couldn't be happier with him.
There's a lot of Menangle in that conversation. Eureka, Inter-Dominions, the Miracle Mile, the last start win. You've never been to Cambridge until tonight. You looked at the track. How do you think Don Hugo is going to enjoy a smaller track up on the speed? Is it going to make him feel big and brave?
Yeah, the track looks fantastic, and he was awesome at Albion Park when he raced up there. And you find a lot of the horses, even when I go up for the Winter Carnival, if they've had good runs at Menangle form, they drop back to the 5.8s, they just seem to grow a leg. So it's, that Menangle fitness and hard racing stands them in good stead for a 1,000-metre track.
About 6 months ago, I think Leap to Fame was maybe 2 lengths better than Don Hugo. Has Don Hugo caught up? Are you now in the same ballpark as Leap to Fame?
Probably 6 months ago, he might have been 4 or 5 lengths better. But in the last few months, it's sort of tightened right up now. And, Swayze's a great horse. And in any of them races, like you said, there's always a new kid on the block. And he's turned 5, he's matured up, he's strengthened up really good, and couldn't be happier with the way he's going.
The New Zealand TAB bookmakers have opened Leap to Fame favourite at 2.3, and you are still 2.5. Totally unbiasedly, just between you and me, nobody else is listening. Who should be favourite for this race unbiasedly?
Leap to Fame.
Good luck on Friday night. Matt, back to you. And Luke McCarthy saying he shouldn't be favourite as he attempts to win his $4 million race with this horse in the last 8 months.
Brittany, you would say confidence with the utmost respect for his rivals, Luke McCarthy, almost nonchalant, but he's such a chilled character, and I think when he gets with the horse, that comes out on the track.
20 Grand Circuit victories as a driver for Luke McCarthy. So if you are to choose a driver for $1 million race, he would be at the top of the tree, and he just knows this horse so well now. It's been quite a remarkable last 12 months. This time 12 months ago, Don Hugo was left out of qualifiers for a Chariots of Fire. What he's gone on to do subsequent to that, even in the Winter Carnival last year, he was in the Blacks of Fate Consolation. It's been an amazing last 7 months or so where he's banked $2 million. I know you ask about the track, and I've been asked about the track for Don Hugo. Beautifully gated horse, wears no gear, wears no boots. I can't foresee the track being a stumbling point. It's interesting the point Michael made around Menangle and his dominance there. And he is a stallion, and I think we'll see Don Hugo on Friday night come and announce himself at the track. He's a beautifully professional racehorse on the track, but he lets everyone know about it. So it's going to be interesting to see how in different surroundings, when he's been so dominant in his own patch, when he went away for the Hunter Cup, he probably underperformed. Was that because he was out of his comfort zone, or was it just an off night? I'm not sure, but he has all the recipes now to now go on and win another big feature, including the barrier draw.
Yeah, absolutely. The barrier draw is the key thing there. But also I like the fact that Luke referred to Albion Park being a similar type track, 5/8 track, and he did handle that very well. He's a completely different horse to that Winter Carnival, though. He has come on in leaps and bounds, and he's confident, and I'm sure that he's going to have a big, big part to play.
Great to have N40 Racing, Josh Devine and the team there with Boys Get Paid having that slot, and of course Kevin and Kay Seymour. We wish them all the very best of luck with their superstar pacer and Leap to Fame. So they are the two big Aussies in the race. Drawn 2 and drawn the outside. We heard from Matt Markham that Merlin's price has slightly drifted. Brittany, your thoughts first of all on the barrier draw for him and the drift in price. Do you think that's fair?
I'm surprised by the double figure offering for Merlin. He sat 1-1 in this race last year and set a record time. I have him initially mapped in the 1-1 on the back of the right horse, with the right horse in front, likely breaking that record. And his effort here last week was superb. I don't think he could have done any more. I clocked his last quarter in 27 flat, and he was off the track and really strong through the line as well. And I was interested, there's always this chat around Australian versus New Zealand gate speed. Well, what we found out in the Miracle Mile Carnival this year is that Merlin, I think, is maybe the quickest of any horse off this front row. Do they want to do that on Friday night? Unlikely, with Leap to Fame drawn to the direct outside. One interesting, I guess, point of note is the fact that in the lead up to last year's win, he had 6 runs, only 3 runs this preparation. He's still been to Australia and back, but most importantly, that run last week was super.
Yeah, it was, and he needed building back up again, Brett, because that 25-1 off the gate, which obviously cost him a start in the Miracle Mile, not necessarily just because of that, but it certainly burnt him early. I don't know, they might be slightly reluctant to try and do that again. I am with you though, $10 is way overs for him. He is likely to slide forward with the, I suppose, backup that Leap to Fame is going to be the first one there, and why wouldn't you want to follow him?
Yeah, 3 and 4-year-old of the year and $120,000 purchase. Great for Dean Shannon, who's been such a wonderful man for Australasian harness racing, and I'm sure that he'll be here on track and maybe slightly nervous, but all the same looking forward to defending his title.
This horse means a great deal to Dean as well, and it would be incredibly special if he was to go back-to-back in this great race, and I honestly think that he can.
Chokin, Holmes, DG, Sky Major, some of the names that spring to mind when you hear of this man, Barry Purdon. He's with Michael.
Yeah, Christopher Vance, Luxury Liner, Soul Command. We could talk all night about those, but of course Merlin is the defending champion. Barry Purdon and Scott Phelan train him. All right, Bar, you weren't hoping for barrier 7, were you?
No, not at all.
Okay, what happens from out there, or do you and Scott hand the reins to Zach and say, good luck?
Yeah, just hand the reins to Zach and say good luck, yeah.
He had a really tough time at Menangle. Things didn't go well. I know he wasn't perky when he returned, but Scott said he's improved every week. How did he bounce out of last Friday night?
He's come through it really well. Mickey's just worked quietly on Monday, but he's going to have a little run along in the morning. And it was a bit of a balancing act. He got sick over there and he came back, and we just had to freshen him up with this race in mind. But he's handled it really well. He trialled good, he raced good last week, he got home really well. So, yeah, we're very happy with him.
If you, as a man who's driven Auckland Cup winners, was driving him in a 7-3 configuration, do you roll the dice and go forward, or do you duck and looking for cover, knowing there's not that many horses back behind you?
I think he's probably really got me, myself, I'd be going forward a wee bit anyway, and I think Leap to Fame will be arriving at some point, so that's what I'd do, Mick, anyway.
So you're talking maybe roll forward, Leap to Fame comes across with you, and potentially you could be 1-1?
Yeah, potentially could be, Mick. I mean, he doesn't have to bust him out of the gate, I don't think, Zach. He just, creep forward at his own speed.
Duchess Megxit is a little girl doing big girl things on Friday night, but if she had to have any horse drawn barrier 2, I would have suggested Leap to Fame or Don Hugo would be the right ones, because it looks like most people, Barry, will map Don Hugo to lead from barrier 2, giving the Duchess potentially the perfect trail.
Well, hopefully Mick, can keep up with Don Hugo. I mean, that would be ideal for her, that's for sure. That'll give her best possible chance.
What did you make of her here last Friday night, stepping into open grade?
Well, she was up in the early burn, and that's always costly, and for that sort of race, she's relatively inexperienced. But look, she came through it well. She got home good right at the end of the race, so we were happy with her. She should be a better mare this week.
Congratulations to you, to Scott, and your owners for getting 2 horses into the race. Who is the horse for you to beat?
Don Hugo for sure, Mick. I think it's, just my opinion, it's probably the best field assembled, in the last 10 years, maybe longer. It's just I think the 2 Australian horses, Don Hugo and Leap to Fame, are the benchmark, followed closely perhaps by Don't Stop Dreaming and Merlin. They got Rakiro Rocket and Pinseeker, who were very brave the other night after an early burn. It's a wonderful field. So we're just lucky to have a horse good enough to be in there or 2.
Good luck, mate.
Thank you, mate.
Matt, back to you. Barry Purdon, one of the greats of the game, and he's suggesting Don Hugo is the horse to beat. He's also suggesting if he was doing the driving, Merlin goes forward and Leap to Fame follows them across, and maybe the 1-1 is there for the 2nd year in a row.
Duchess Megxit racing barrier number 1. The Commodore team, the Patterson Bros, they have their wonderful mare off barrier number 1, the best in the business in terms of wins, Tony Herlihy to drive Brittany, and she maps to get the run of the race.
We know how important barrier draws are in these races, and being on the mark pegs in these races as well, Matthew. I guess we got a little indication last week, Greg, on where she's at. I still thought she was quite sound through the line and maybe just run off her feet a little bit. And she'd also had the 3 weeks between runs. It's not going to be easy for her, but she's a special talent in her own right.
Yeah, she is, and the bloke sitting in the bike is too. 3,700 wins here in New Zealand would tell you that. She has been a great filly and mare now. She will give you a chance of running top 4. I just find that she might, can she hold the back of what we think will be the leader in Don Hugo? If she can, she's a top 4 chance. If she ends up further back, I think that diminishes her chances of finishing in one of those top positions.
I think you're right, Brett. I reckon they left a bit of improvement there. Obviously, you can't have them peaking every week, but that big key is going to be using that little bit of speed early to try and get a good run. Good luck to the Commodore team there with Duchess Megxit. On to Don't Stop Dreaming. He was electric at Alexandra Park at his most recent assignment. What he lacks in size, he makes up for in speed and stamina. Hayden and Amanda Cullen train, Craig Ferguson to drive, and Britt, he'll go around in the Dennis and Mark Dunford slot.
Can he go one better than last year? Last year he was doing all of the bullocking work, and when you go back and analyse that effort, he exploded off the gate. Do we see similar early speed from him this time around? We haven't seen it in a little while, but we know that it's there. That was a great confidence boosting. Well, to be fair, his last 2 runs have been great for his confidence. I'm sure of that. And he seems a little bit of a confidence horse from time to time, Greg. He's a ripper, and to go around at $15, I think Craig Ferguson holds the key to this race, and I know that you'll talk to it as well, but he has the benefit of 2 weeks between runs. I still think there's some fair positives for him.
Yeah, absolutely. You see there he's twice a Sire Stakes winner. He led the junior free-for-all from the outside of the gate, and he just got slightly rough on that occasion. That's the first time, Matthew, since his 3-year-old days that he's gone back-to-back. Really soft win for him last time. He picked them up really quickly from 5 back on the fence. I think there is only one choice to be made here. If he goes back, he won't get any of this. I think he'll come out. I think he'll get the best possible position that Craig can find for him. He's a definite top 3, top 4 chance, but I can't see him filling one of those spots if he's not in the early burn, which they have to use that speed of his.
If you see 2 or 3 of them coming out from wide at the start, Luke McCarthy looks across. Does he hunt up, or does he maybe let something go and then press onto the lead?
I guess in the Miracle Mile, he allowed Tack McLeod to get across him, knowing that he just had to stay in front of one horse. That one horse was Leap to Fame, but this time around, I think he has to stay in front of a few, because if he lets one go, all of a sudden he could cop a fair shuffle. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Greg. And just that gate speed as well of Don't Stop Dreaming. Are we underestimating it a little bit?
Oh, no, he can get out. I think he might have a decent crack early, and I'm sort of with you. Luke's such a great driver. Like, he's a gun. Absolute gun. He will sum it up beautifully. He will decide whether he lets it go and then takes the lead. That's going to be part of the intrigue building into this great race.
We turn over to Republican Party, the winner of the Invercargill Cup, and beat home Merlin, of course, in the Auckland Cup over the 3,200 metres. Cran, Chrissy Delgetti and Carter Delgetti will combine. He's in the Republican Party syndicate. Greg, he was the emergency last year. 12 months later, he gets his crack from a really good draw.
Yeah, and he's a different horse, totally different horse. He's full of confidence. He had a pretty tough run at Alexandra Park, but Cran and Chrissy would have got him to bounce back off that. Yeah, he's in a prime position as well, because if Don Hugo does lead, then he's straight into the running line and does no work. He can really follow a helmet and hit the line strongly. He has a decent chance in this race. I reckon his odds will go out though, Britt, because I think there'll be support for Merlin. Quite rightly, you pointed out $10 is overs, and obviously the 2 Australians are going to attract most of the money.
I loved what he did in Australia in that short campaign, and I think he was very unlucky not to get the major slice of the pie in the Hunter Cup. And maybe I was a bit biased because I was with him that night. I thought if he'd just got that fraction of luck earlier. So that's a very good comparative run when we look at the quality of horse that we're seeing on Friday night here. His gate speed as well. He's in that tricky spot of 3. 3 can often be really tough because you're so close you feel as though you have to go forward, but if you don't get into a position quickly, then all of a sudden it can be a tricky spot. If they really fire out a few wider on the gate early, maybe it's an opportunity for him to sort of slide across their backs a little. I like the 2,200 for him. I probably would have loved a 2,700 metre race because he's such a good stayer. So, yeah, I just think he's slipped a few's mind again, Republican Party.
All right, I'm sure that the 2,200 may well feel like 3,200 metres. The fact they went 235 last year, there would have been some tired horses the day after. It's going to be a huge night for Mark and Nathan Purdon. They have a runner in each of our races on the Night of Champions, and Mark Purdon is with Michael.
Mark's been on a roller coaster for the last half an hour. He's had the ups of Oscar Bonavita's draws and maybe not so up with Chase a Dream. 3 years ago, you had to come from last to win what was then Race by Grins. You might be facing doing the same thing, Marky.
With Chase the Dream? Yes, well, you know, you're dictated to how the one horse gets out, but with Don Hugo drawing 2, that's probably not a bad thing.
Okay, so you're suggesting 3 fence may not be a disaster?
Well, it may not. You know, Leaps of Fame's going to be turning up at some point, and he'll make it a stayers race. So it'll sort the ones out that are going to do the early work.
He was dynamic here last week, back to form. Have the indications in the days since been he will hold that?
Yeah, well, he seems to have come through it well, and he'll have his final training run tomorrow. But to date anyway, he seems pretty fit and well.
Okay, let's go back to the TAB Trot, $600,000. Oscar Bonavina couldn't draw 1 or 2. He got barrier 3. Does that suit him?
Yeah, well, it's a good draw, and especially with the main rivals sort of further out, it's a good draw to be in.
Is it a draw you are confident to utilise and potentially try and lead on him, considering his issues coming off the gate in the last 6 months?
He's just a horse you got to know, and probably you really just got to go with the feel of him on the night. He's not a horse I've raced off the arm quick. As I say, it just depends a little bit on him on the night.
For the punters watching at home, Mark, what are the realistic chances that he can stay in front of an RC Phoenix or the Locomotive?
Yeah, well, he wouldn't stay in front of the Locomotive early, from what I've seen of him. And I know Chris, he's said his horse has not been 100% foolproof from the arm, so but he might have the draw to test him.
Away from your horses, who are the horses to beat? Go to the Trot first. Who's the horse Oscar has to beat?
Oh, the Locomotive for sure.
And as we head to the pacing race, the $1 million pacing race, you have seen plenty of Don Hugo and even more of Leap to Fame. You know Merlin oh so well. Who's the horse to beat in the race by Betcha?
Well, they're both great horses and they're both great horsemen, but you'd probably favour Don Hugo from the draw.
Okay, Matt, as we head back to you, the Purdon boys are going for Don Hugo as the horse to beat for them in the pacing race, and they have 3 of the horses who will be trying to fly the New Zealand flag.
And All Stars Racing, along with Chris Ryder, hold a slot in each race, and they own both horses, Oscar Bonavina and this horse, Chase a Dream. Brittany, I would have said you were mad if you had have said to me 7 days ago that this horse can win the race by Betcha, but Mark Purdon changed our mind on Friday night.
It was nearly an arrogant victory, wasn't it? He just careered away from his rivals in a new track record mile rate, and he seemed to just do it with absolute ease. He had the blinds on, that obviously tinkered with some gear and maybe changed his mindset a little bit as well in the process. He's always had the ability. There's been no doubt about that. This will be his 4th run in as many weeks, Greg. So in saying that, maybe it is a positive draw in that he won't have to really get involved. And I guess 3 fence in any feature race like this is a plum position to be in. And that's where Mark's thinking he may well be.
Have a look at him here. This is an arrogant victory in track record time. Yes, he got the right sort of run. He gets to the outside of Pinseeker, Merlin storming home. But right about here, Mark just sits there and goes, okay, fella, you're actually going to bolt in here. Merlin didn't take any ground off him over the last 20 or 30 metres. He was running through the line. He's been cruelled by the draw. I think if he could have been 3 or 4 lengths off them turning for home, we've seen his potent speed before. We saw him when he won the Sire Stakes on Cup Day. No horses come from that far back in the last 200 metres at Addington in a Group 1 that I can think of in recent times, certainly not as a juvenile. So he's brilliant enough to win it, but he's going to need a few things to go his way. And what about the genius of Mark Purdon to turn that horse around from an Auckland performance, which was extremely disappointing. Sat in the trail, swished his tail, said, I don't want to be there. Tail tie was well and truly on last Friday night, and he delivered it in great style.
And we know that he knows how to peak a good horse for a good race as well.
I would hate to try and count the amount of times that he has. So can he do it 2 weeks in a row? I have no doubt about that. And when you have horses like Don Hugo and Leap to Fame in a race, we've already discussed the genuine tempo in this race. If he is 3 fence, I know it looks precarious on paper, but I still think if he's good enough, I think that the gaps might appear late in the race. There's going to have to be some tired horses.
Michael Brennan Racing and Roseland Racing picked up the slot with Pinseeker, who was most impressive, winning the free-for-all, the autumn free-for-all at the Addington Raceway. Came north, first run here at Cambridge Raceway, Greg, and it couldn't have been any better. One of the runs of the race.
Outstanding performance from him. Luckless in the Christian Cullen back in December. Look, he's been shot up the grades virtually since he won everyone about his second race. He's had to take on decent sort of fields. He's just hardening to this type of racing, and last week, Brittany, he couldn't have gone any better.
21 starts for him to be at the position that he's in right now, and I just love that he's had that really solid, hard summer of racing under its belt. Some horses don't progress from it. He clearly has, and he just keeps getting better. He surprised me with his gate speed last week as well. He really did go along with them early. I know it's a different starting point this time around, but it is a tricky spot for him this Friday. I'm not sure what Johnny Cox does aboard him, but there's no doubting that that strength to the speed that he clearly has as well is going to stand him in really good stead. I keep going back to that Christian Cullen where he was locked and loaded in behind them and never saw daylight. I think that he can follow a very strong speed, but it's just about how he gets into that prime position that I'm sure they're after.
Yeah, he's a very good horse, Pin Seeker. All the very best to Johnny Cox and the team with him. We move over to Ahoka Connor, who comes up with the outside second row barrier draw. This is going to be 3 on the second row. Greg, Stonewall Stud, the slot holders, they own the horse as well. He needs a decent turnaround in form.
Yeah, he does. He couldn't get into the race last week. Here he is winning the Southern Supremacy, and he did that in great style. He's always been immensely talented, Brittany, but last week he couldn't get into it, and this week I'm not sure how he's going to get into it either.
Well, it's a terrible barrier draw, isn't it? The outside of the second row. I'd assume that they'll be taking all of the shortcuts and hoping for a quick turnaround in form. His form prior had been quite okay. I think he was just too bad to be true last week, only going 154 himself. He's clearly capable of better.
Yeah, absolutely he is on his absolute maximum. You wouldn't discount him, but from that barrier draw makes it pretty tricky. Another horse drawn the second row is Rakiro Rocket, Group 1 winner at the back end of last year in the Christian Cullen. Tom Bamford does the training. Gavin Smith on board. Greg burnt 25.5 off the gate last week, and to be fair with those splits, stuck on very bravely.
Yeah, he did, and I don't think this is a bad draw for him because it takes that I've got to use his gate speed out of play. Punches through, gets a decent sort of a run early. How far off them will he be, Britt, when he needs to be asked for the extra effort? He's come a very long way, this horse. He deserves his chance, and to Tom Bamford and Gavin Smith, good luck to them.
Absolutely. He was great last week. He stuck on stoutly at that level with the amount of really good horses surrounding him for him to continue to boot on. I thought he was super, but that's probably my one concern with him now. What does that do to this week with, I guess, really lighting him up? Because he's clearly been a horse in the past that's overdone things from time to time. He has a helmet straight away, though, and a pretty good helmet at that of Luke McCarthy. So he's going to have a good run through and he'll have options.
And good luck to Ronnie Dorr and his family as well, as a long time been a wonderful supporter of harness racing, and great to see you have a good horse as well, Ronnie. So to you and the family, all the very best. All right, Greg, to wrap it up, your final thoughts on the race by Betcha?
Yeah, well, the draw has obviously played into the hands of Don Hugo. Not so much Leap to Fame. I still think they're the two horses to beat, and they'll be going to war. It really comes down to one of the Kiwis sitting just off them with the speed to get over the top, probably most likely to be a Merlin or a Chaser Dream.
Brittany, your final thoughts?
I think Merlin's just beautifully placed. I think Merlin and Republican Party.
Are you really going? I'd have thought you might have been a little bit more biased than that.
I can't be.
You're quick to become
I want
a Kiwi.
to be liked here in New Zealand. I'm planning to be here for the long haul. But honestly, no, I think Merlin, I was so taken by his run last week. And the more I look at it, I thought the same thing in the Hunter Cup when we had Swayze and Leap to Fame. Every horse had their opportunity on that night. I think every horse is going to have their opportunity on this night. And if you're sitting 1-1 and sitting pretty, and we know he can follow speed, it's not as though it takes anything out of him at the end, I still like the double figure odds about Merlin.
I can just see Barry Pernin down there with the cheeky grin. Stay with us here on this box seat special. Right after this, we'll take you through the field for the 2025 TAB Trot.
The countdown is on. Night of Champions is almost here. It's speed, it's stamina, it's pure harness racing brilliance, where the best from both sides of the Tasman go head to head. Don't miss the TAB Trot, with the top trotters battling for the crown. And to kick things off, back any horse in race 1 this Friday. And if it doesn't win, get up to $25 back in bonus cash. That's a second chance to get back in the game. TAB, get your bet on. R18, bet responsibly.
Woodland Stud present their All-Star 5 world-class shuttle sires, all on offer to breeders this season. Better's Delight, Sweet Lou, Down by the Seaside, Lather Up, What the Hill. We're a one-stop shop for breeders looking to enhance their bloodlines, get success at the sales and breed their own stars. Don't miss your opportunity to share the dream with Woodland Stud.
In terms of the start of a race, they say at the start of a New Zealand Cup you're walking around and you can feel the pressure. Was it a similar feeling that night?
Yep, yeah, 100%. Every other drive was quiet, eh? There wasn't much getting set out there, and it's always been the same in those big races. You know, you're out there to do a job on a bigger stage, and yeah, you have to be dialed in and focused.
One of Cambridge's favourites, Zachary Butchram, will have that full feature story for you later on the week here for the Night of Champions. The TAB Trot as we get into the last half an hour of your 90-minute special here for the box seat. Let's recap the barriers with I'm Ready Jet drawing inside of Queen Elida, the two mares. Oscar Bonavina, now the $2.80 favourite, is drawn in barrier 3. RC Phoenix $5.50 in barrier 4. The Locomotive at $3.30, and Bet and Win, who was the favourite for this race in most of the lead-up, draws one on the second row at $4.80. We will take in some discussion about the Locomotive very shortly. Let's hear from the man who will have the best seat in the house, though, Brad Hewitt's with Michael.
All right, Brad, it's not an ideal barrier initially, but the more you look at it, what are your thoughts about barrier 6?
Yeah, it obviously could have been better, Mick, but yeah, it got Bet and Win drawn the second line, which is one of the ones I thought would be pretty hard to beat. But obviously Oscar's drawn inside us and RC Phoenix, so yeah, he's going to have to do a bit of work. But yeah, I'm really confident with the horse, and I'm sure he'll go really well.
Okay, so no change of his usual modus operandi, going off the gate and hoping to lead?
Well, bit unfortunate for us. I don't know if he knows any way other than to do that. I definitely haven't done it since I've had him, so he's such a great gaited horse, and he naturally wants to run the gate, and he's a proud going horse. He just loves doing it. So yeah, we definitely won't be changing that this week.
Who are your concerns inside you that may stop you getting to the marker peaks?
Well, Oscar obviously is the first one you've seen there, and like have seen him leave the gate and go really well, but he galloped only 2 starts ago, so they might be a little bit tentative there. So yeah, at the end of the day, we're just going to be hitting the button early. We've got full confidence in our horse. Like he's so safe, and he's used to running the gate, so we'll put him under a bit of pressure, and yeah, we'll just see what happens. You brought him here this morning to Cambridge. How did he enjoy the experience? He was really good, yeah. I was really happy with him. Yeah, he got around the track great, and yeah, he was really sharp. He's last sort of 400 and furlong, so he felt just like he does at home. So the track's not going to be a concern whatsoever. Mate, it's great to have you here. Good luck on Friday. Good luck in Sweden after that. Good on you, mate. Thanks, mate. Brad Hewitt with the Locomotive, and Matt, no change of plan from the Locomotive, heading out and trying to, shall we say, intimidate the rivals to the lead.
Yeah, we're liking it. The bookies not so much, though, keeping Oscar Bonavina pretty safe as the favourite. Let's look at the profile for the Locomotive, the son of Muscle Mass, out of the champion race mare in La Cucaracha, one of the best to come to New Zealand, of course. He is in the Rampant Proprietary Limited slot. Brad Hewitt trains, he drives, and Brittany, from what you've seen of him in Australia, how are you comparing him to the Kiwis?
He's a great horse, and his racing pattern just puts him in the right place 9 times out of 10. I came here this morning to watch him have a look around Cambridge, and he looks sensational. It's interesting so much is said about his gate speed, and I would say he's got very good gate speed, but it's not first 50 metres crosses his rivals instantaneously gate speed. He's naturally a horse who wants to go forward at the start. Now, you guys will probably figure out in the next few years that I am a nerd and I like my stats. So I have some for you on the Locomotive. In his 38 career starts, he's led 25 times and he's won on 23 of those occasions. So he's just an absolute out-and-out leader. 13 times he hasn't led, he's only won one of those times. So if he doesn't find the lead on Friday night, on those stats, his chances plummet. However, whoever stops him from leading on Friday night could be in a world of hurt as well, Greg, because he just has such a hard running style. It'll be interesting because RC Phoenix are not as promised to go forward horses. They want to be positive, but can they do enough to keep him to their outside? And then they've got some almighty big decisions to make.
Yeah, absolutely. They have. I love the nerdness. That's fantastic, giving us those stats. I can see him working to the lead, not flying to the lead. And once he gets there, he is going to be incredibly hard to beat, Matthew. His performance in the heat of the Great Southern Star, where he completely obliterated that field in about 52, and then his last start winning performance before he came over here at Menangle, he was right up to that as well. He is still the horse to beat. Absolutely, he's the horse to beat, and he'll be my top selection.
Well, maybe RC Phoenix holds the key to the race. What does Chris Svenocio think? Let's find out. He's with Michael.
Let's find out from the man they call Snooze and Baby Snooze. Welcome to Trackside. Welcome to New Zealand. Who's this little beauty?
This is my daughter Estella.
Is she the good luck charm?
Yeah, she's RC Phoenix's #1 fan.
Okay, well, is she enough of a good luck charm and fan to enable you to push him off the gate and hold together for the first 400?
Well, I definitely hope so. I've sort of spent his whole career trying to get him to come off the gate as slow as he could. He was, bit of his own worst enemy. Just he could fire up a fair bit early on and just always driven him pretty conservative off the gate. But Friday night might be the night to find out how quick out he is.
Okay, what's the answer to that? I'm sure you've tried it at least at some stage at home or the trials. If you push the button on him, can he lead?
I'm sure he's pretty quick. Whether he's quick enough to hold the Locomotive, I'm not sure. The Locomotive just, sort of explodes off the gate. But, we all know it can be a little bit different here at Cambridge. I think, four's as good as I could have hoped for from the draw, and he's sort of tough enough. That's his style, his strength, he can do that bit of work and just keep going. So if I can put him in the right spot, I'm sure he'll run a great race.
It's great to have you and the family here. Good luck on Friday.
Thanks, Mick.
It's Snooze, Matt and Baby Snooze here at Cambridge. It's great to have the whole Svenocio family here. And look, he's going to try. He just said he's going to try and hold the Locomotive. I guess we're all going to hold our breath when we try and find out.
Thanks, Michael. What say you, Brittany? Can he hold the Locomotive out?
I think he can put his tippy toes there for a little while and make things interesting to that first turn. He's a very good horse. I think he's underrated. He ran 4th in this race last year. He ran 4th in the Dominion. He ran 4th in the New Zealand Trotting Free-for-all, and he didn't really have suitable trips on any of those occasions. Go back to the Hammerhead Mile. He was able to run a really bold race off probably not a perfect preparation. I think he's a smoky in this field, and well, now he's not so smoky because he's 550 from the barrier draw. But the more I look at this lineup, and Not As Promised surprised me last week. If Not As Promised hadn't have left the gate as well as he did last week, I would have said that, well, the Locomotive will cross. But if Not As Promised can leave and provide that little bit of protection to RC Phoenix, he is certainly such a strong horse. He's much like the Locomotive, can sustain a high speed for a long time.
Yeah, and he's a better horse than what he was this time last year. He is definitely stronger. Chris is an outstanding horseman. He'll do the right thing by the horse at the start, and that potentially is trying to hold the lead there. I give him a cracking chance in the race. Like I say, he's a better horse than last year. Whether that's good enough to beat the two that are in front of him in the market, well, as Michael said, we're all about to find out.
Well, if they try and run the first half of the race faster than the last half, there'll be one horse sitting right on their heels there to capitalise. And his name is Oscar Bonavina. And what a way to prepare for the TAB Trot than with his performance here last Friday night. His slot holder, All Stars Racing, and Chris Ryder, Mark and Nathan Purdon combine. Mark in the bike. Greg, he is now the favourite for the TAB Trot at 280. I don't think there's a chance in the world he comes off the gate. I reckon he cuddles him up and has one crack. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I agree with you. I've said it for a long time. He is an incredible short course horse. Yes, you see in his resume there he's won a 3,200 metre Dominion Trot. But you did see last week, Brittany, just how potent he was when just held up in the early half of this race, and then Mark said, righto, let's go now. And when he did, have a look at his blistering turn of foot here. He goes straight past, not as promised, and Mark has not moved. He's in the right sort of form to win this race. It's just whether he can run down the locomotive for mine.
Clearly the quickest horse in this race, point to point, but then it comes down to his mapper and where he is. You give any of these horses 3 or 4 lengths head start and all of a sudden it doesn't matter how quick you are, it's physically impossible to get to them. He is definitely in the right sort of form, and gosh, he is so incredibly quick. The barrier draw gives Mark so many options, and that means that 9 times out of 10 he's going to choose the right option, and we know that he obviously gets Oscar Bonavena off the gate, and off the gate safely more than anybody else. I think that will be the plan, to get him away safely, believe in his speed. It's only an 8-horse field. He won't be too far from them, you wouldn't think.
Just be hoping for a bit of speed on at the start, as will this horse Bet and Win. Before we take a look at his profile, David and Stacey White, they are on track as they prepare for the TAB Trot, and Michael is with Stacey.
Stacey, barrier 9 was not what you and David wanted. Did it get better as the other barrier draws came out?
100% it did, Mick. Yeah, when it came out, obviously we would have preferred a draw up front and near the inside, but as like you said, the draws kept coming out, we kept getting more and more upbeat about where we'd drawn.
Okay, is the best case scenario a war between RC Phoenix and the locomotive and the Australians undoing themselves and Bob Butt just doing Bob Butt stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like on paper there should be a lot of speed up front early, and our horse is going to be out of that to a degree. So, yeah, we're just going to let Bob take the reins and see what happens, whether he stays behind the mare or whether possibly he looks to pop off. You know, being the only horse on the second line there, he's going to have options. So, I mean, hopefully things pan out and he gets a bit of luck. He will need a bit of luck with those other horses drawing handier. But, yeah, he'll be there and doing our best.
Special time for the family and owners. Good luck on Friday night.
Thanks so much, Mick.
Stacey White, a new mum, Stacey White. It's a bit of a crash around here at the moment. Back Cross, as we head back to you. I don't think barrier 9 was what they wanted, but as the other draws came out, they saw the potential for pressure and they started to think this is actually getting a little bit better, draw by draw.
You're doing a great job holding the fort down there for us, Michael. We might need a wee bit of a Bobby B special, Greg.
Yeah, I think he might, but he is immensely talented, only lightly tried. Obviously, his win in the Fred Shaw, Brittany, was what he needed to do. Get a Group 1 win, get the confidence. Last week, he didn't get the lead. We all thought he would, not as promised, held that spot, and the race didn't pan out as well as the connections would have liked. In saying that, a look at Cambridge will be hugely advantageous to him this week.
He didn't trot as well as Connections would have liked either. So they now have the 7 days to make those maybe minor changes. Sometimes it can be something minor. And I'm sure as well the fact that he's had the look around. And it was at a point in the race where Oscar Bonavena put the foot down. So that's enough to put any horse out of their comfort zone. I think the extra distance will suit him. Being out of that early burn will suit him. We know he's a very, very good horse. He might be the forgotten horse come Friday night. And 7 days is an awful long time in harness racing.
He did an extremely good job to pick himself up and find the line as well as what he did here last Friday. We wish the whole entire ownership group and the slot holders and, of course, David and Stacey all the very best with Bet and Win. We move over to a Kiwi favourite, Muscle Mountain, known as the Big M. He will wear the colours of the late Ian Dobson. He will be racing in the Cullen breeding slots and a new training partnership, Greg and Ben Hope. Ben has done a wonderful job aboard this horse for pretty much the entire career. not the greatest of barrier draws, though, as he comes up with barrier 7.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy for him out there. Regardless, he will go past $1 million on Friday night, which is a fair reflection, Brittany, of his talent. He's long been one of our very best trotters. It hasn't been the ideal preparation. It wasn't leading into Cup Week either. We thought he probably should have been able to run past Bet and Win in the Fredshaw. He wasn't able to. He needs a breakneck speed, one run at them type of run for mine.
It's a disappointing barrier draw for him because we know how much early speed he does possess, but it gets very hard to use it from out there, particularly with so much drawn to his inside. He's a star, though. He's got the right team behind him. He'll go around at a big price, I'd say, on Friday night, Matt, but we shouldn't discount him.
I'd love to see him come off a helmet with a good speed up front. Good luck to Ben and Greg and Nina and the entire family with Muscle Mountain, who will run in the Cullen breeding slot from barrier number 7. I'm Ready Jet is the next of the Australians. I'm Ready Jet will be racing in the Holiday Trotteur slots. Andy and Kate Gath. Britt, what can you tell the Kiwis about I'm Ready Jet?
Well, she's an 8-year-old mare who's just raced at the elite level since day dot, and she is just that. She's elite. She's coming into this off the back of 2 wins this preparation, including one over Queen Elida at Group 1 level only 2 weeks ago now. That was over the 2,700 metres. As I mentioned, Greg, she's not electric quick off the gate, and I guess from gate number 1 I have a feeling she might cop a little bit of a shuffle from that position, but I spoke to Andy Gath after that last start effort. He said she's always better early on in a prep. In fact, third up is her optimum run, and guess what? Friday night, that's what she'll be.
That's exactly where she's at, and full respect around Andy and Kate. They've been coming to these shores for quite some time. I know how much Andy likes to take on the challenge, particularly in the trotting gate, and I'm sure this mare will give him a great sight again.
Good luck to Kate Gath as well, driving around in the Dorothy Cutts Invitational. We move on to Not As Promised, our next runner. Not As Promised showed good gate speed here last week in the Trotters Mile. Graham Dwyer is the trainer. Nathan Dawson, one of Queensland's very best, Brittany, is aboard and is a $31 chance.
I love that he came here last week to have a look around, because in the big scheme of things, he really is a fresh horse on the scene. He has a 2-1 winning record over the Locomotive. So when we consider how glowingly we're speaking of the Locomotive, this guy had an amazing end to his 3-year-old year. He missed his entire 4-year-old year through injury, and that's, I guess, a progressive year. So it certainly means something. He's not hardened to this type of racing, but one thing we know for sure is that the further the better for him. So I think the step up in trip will really suit. And I'll say it again, I was so surprised by his gate speed last week. I'm sure that will give Nathan Dawson some more confidence, and they won't be coming here to go back. I think they'll want to get involved.
Yeah, the different start point may well be the difference this week, because it's only 100 metres to the first bend over the short course, and it's a lot longer here, and those others with gate speed are likely to show and probably beat him off the machine. But I cannot get his New Zealand Derby run out of my head. He was 3 wide for at least a mile at Addington and still kept coming. Graham's done a magic job with him. Nathan Dawson, for those who don't know him, Brittany, you're a Queenslander. He drove 400 winners plus in 2023. He's a gun as well. He'll give him every possible chance.
Nothing bothers Nathan Dawson. So when he comes here to Cambridge on Friday night in front of a big crowd, he will relish it.
And nothing bothers the puppets either. Chris Alford will be driving the $1 million mare in Queen Elida. She will be the final runner we preview here tonight. She'll race in the Baron Bloodstock, Araka Farms slot. Her earnings now over $1 million. She's a $34 chance. And Brittany, this will be the first leg of Queen Elida's final chapter of racing.
What an absolute bonny mare she has been. She's raced in all of the big dances over the last 4 or 5 years, and she just... it's nearly like she knows when a big race rolls around, as does her trainer and driver, because she always runs up to expectation. A little different preparation this year to last, in that she'd had a run here in the Flying Mile the week before a third in last year's event. But as I mentioned, I think she's probably a quicker mare off the gate than I'm Ready Jet, and maybe she finds herself in a not dissimilar position this year as she did last year. But we know it's always that little bit harder crossing side by side. I'm sure it's no different here.
Yeah, absolutely. It won't be easy for her, but I agree with you. I think she can get across, and if she gets to the markers, follows the Locomotive, then she can top 4 for sure, and she's so brave. I've loved watching her career unfold, and the Swan Song, the next few starts are going to be fun to watch, and she can fill a spot as long as she gets to the fence.
All right, we'll go around the table as we wrap up the show tonight. Brittany, your final thoughts on the TAB Trot?
Great race. I think the Aussies hold the key in terms of the map.
That's right, you're allowed to say it.
No, but you're going to laugh at me when I say I keep coming back to Oscar Bonavina, and then he's just so fast. And I think that whilst we assume the Locomotive will get to the front, if he does, I think he'll be made to earn it. And if he doesn't, my stats.
Yeah, well, they are. They're pretty glaring, aren't they? I still think he can win at the Locomotive. Obviously, Oscar's going to take all sorts of beating. And yeah, in terms of the race by Betcha, well, the barrier draw has just started the conversation even more, Matthew, about what might happen during the run. I think for mine, it's pretty straightforward. It'll be a Miracle Mile repeat, those two going to war. It's just whether the Kiwis have the speed to get over the top of them. I'll go for Leap to Fame over Don Hugo.
Don't drop bet and win just yet. I reckon it might work out. Matt Markham, what are your thoughts as we round out the show?
Yeah, no real early movements, Matt, but I think we'll see a bit of fluctuation in this TAB Trot market before we get to Friday night, particularly around the Locomotive. Look, there's a lot of confidence floating around here at Cambridge in his chances. He comes up with a frontline draw, which is key. We saw a move for him in the 48 hours leading up to the market's closing pre-barrier draw. I would expect we'll see a move for him from that $3.30 quote as we moved closer towards the Night of Champions. Matt.
Is there much doing in terms of the market for the race by Betcha?
Well, there's not so much in the market, but there's a couple of interesting things that have happened in the last 10 minutes that are worth letting punters know about. One of those is that you can get a boosted price now on Don Hugo for up to $100 investment. You'll get a $3 quote. You'll find that on the Futures tab on tab.co.nz. And of course, Boys Get Paid, who are going to be a big part of the action here on Friday night. They've opened their shoulders for the first time and they've taken a $40,000 bet on Don Hugo. The court horse, of course, who they share in the slot ownership alongside N40 Racing. They're putting their money where their mouth is, and they've opened up for one big slide early on in trading here with $40,000 on Don Hugo. Look, a few extras that we can get involved in for the punters at home throughout the night. There's a boosted Quinella on the race by Betcha, $3 for up to $100 investment. That's for either Don Hugo or Leap to Fame to run first or second. You can get $3 for that. We're going to have a lot of markets open within the next 24 hours. You'll see early crows on both of our feature races. Will the national record for 2,200 metres be broken? Merlin's mark of 235.1 and Cindy's Sun mark of 239.1. There'll be markets open for those as well as top 6 and top 5, and there'll be plenty of other feature options as we unfold throughout the night. But the big news here from the desk as we come back to you, Matt, and I say a very good evening to you, is $40,000 on Don Hugo to win the race by Betcha by the Boys Get Paid syndicate as they look to unleash here on Friday night.
Thanks for your input here tonight, Matt. We'll catch you on Friday for the Night of Champions. Michael Guerin, you've been out and about for us this evening, getting all of the information. Thanks for your help tonight.
Been a pleasure, Matt, and I've come back to for the Trot. The Locomotive, I'm still with him because I think Oscar Bonavina actually doesn't have the gate speed to use his draw. So with the Locomotive, maybe covering on RC Phoenix, and if our old mate Oscar beats us, well, that happens sometimes. In the pacing race, Don Hugo, they're giving you $3 for a maximum $100 bet. Take that now. He won't be $3 here on Friday night. For Leap to Fame, I love the horse over the biggest 10 or 12 races of his life. When he is led, he is unbeatable. But when he's had to sit parked outside a great horse, Swayze, Catch a Wave in a Miracle Mile, or a horse like Don Hugo in another Miracle Mile, he has been beaten. He is a beatable horse. I should go back and say Catch a Wave in a Eureka it was. He is beatable when he has to sit parked outside a great horse. That is the scenario this week. He will lose 1.5 length every bend. There are 4 bends in the race by Betcha. The question for you is Leap to Fame 6 lengths better than Don Hugo? If you think so, you're getting $2.30 to find out. Good luck to everybody here and those punting around 2 countries on Friday night for the Night of Champions.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks to you, Greg, for being a part of the show. Really looking forward to Friday.
Yeah, look, thanks, Matt, and to you, Britt, as well. Not surprised by those Boys Just Get Paid putting $40,000 on. I thought we might see that come. Can't wait for Friday night.
And looking forward to your input as well on Friday, your first night of champions as a tracksider.
Can't wait to get out there. I'll be out on track again, Matt, trying to get that last-minute interest for all those watching at home and getting the insight from the drivers. These two races are going to be very special contests. To be here on track, I think, is also going to be pretty special.
Catch us all here on Friday Night Lights, 4:30 on Trackside. Thanks for joining us tonight on the special edition of The Box Seat, previewing the TAB Trot and the race by Betcha. We're looking forward to it, as we hope you are. We'll catch you here at Cambridge Raceway for the Night of Champions this Friday here on Trackside.
We went 0 to crazy, baby, on repeat. Stuck in my head just like my favorite song. Yeah, I never knew something so good could last so long. I know those days go by, it wasn't
just believe though, a true greater than trotting world in Australasia. And just believe he'll get the TAB Trot, and the Candyman delivers. Don't stop dreaming really digs in, but the magic of Merlin, he's got the race by grins. You've seen a New Zealand record.
I know those days go by, it wasn't wasted time. Had a little bit of everything, and you said that I look good in your shirt. Yeah, back when we were us, once in a lifetime love. Can't help but think of you, hope you think of me when you play that key.
The countdown is on. Night of Champions is almost here. It's speed, it's stamina, it's pure harness racing brilliance, where the best from both sides of the Tasman go head to head. Don't miss the TAB Trot, with the top trotters battling for the crown. And to kick things off, back any horse and race one this Friday. And if it doesn't win, get up to $25 back in bonus cash. That's a second chance to get back in the game. TAB, get your bet on. R18, bet responsibly.